We did it. It
Yay, this is
appears.
what not giving up gives you.
Yay.
Yeah. I sat here and
You might want to change
streamed.
the @
Huh?
then. You might
I
want to go to the
did.
server and head @ every. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I did.
Cool.
I updated it. I said JK,
Cool, cool, cool,
JK.
cool, cool, cool.
So I was like, JK, we're not. And then I said, JK, JK. We are. Yeah, Streamlabs decided it wanted
Hi,
to
everybody.
shit all over my parade this morning. This afternoon, whatever. Hi.
Whatever.
We've done it.
Today.
We've arrived. We're here.
We'll back it up on what we were talking about. So, like, I got back from traveling across the country. After I quit the show that I was working on, I
We
was
had
just
very
like, I need a
lovingly,
break.
we very lovingly refer to it as your Eat, Pray, Love journey.
Eat, Pray, Love journey.
Eat, Pray, Love.
What?
It was like a movie. It was like some like chick flick
It's a white
movie.
thing.
Okay.
It was like some chick
Well,
flick movie. She like went on this journey through India and like spirituals.
Here's
like
what I
that.
ate: croissants, turkey bacon clubs, and breakfast sandwiches from Tim Hortons because I'm still boycotting McDonald's. Fuck y'all.
I haven't eaten at McDonald's in a long time. Been a minute.
Free Palestine. Anyways, and where was I going with this? Yeah, I ate a bunch of those, and I prayed that the roads would stay clear, and they pretty well did. I had some really cool experiences. Like, there was a storm that I almost had to pull over for, but like at the point where I slowed down and just like kind of was like deciding, do I pull over? Do I keep going? It like broke, you know what I mean? And I could start seeing again.
That's
it was
like the freakiest
so
thing.
Thick on the rain. It's just so. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the freakiest thing when you're driving, and it's like you hit this patch of storm, and you're like, is it better to just not be driving through this? Like, it's a really like real decision. But then you have to be like, well, where can I actually safely pull over and not like cause more of a problem? You know,
it's not the easiest answer all the time. And the thing was, like, the moment I started questioning that, the storm started to break and I could see again, and I was like, well, fuck it. Let's just keep going through it because I drove into it. Therefore, it's going to be faster to just go through it. And I was correct, and that was the best thing to do because I had already gotten through the worst of it, and I kind of hit the eye, but the front side of the storm was worse than the back side, so I could see clearly the whole way through the rest of it. And then there's this other really cool storm. It wasn't actually dangerous in any way, but it felt like the most supernatural storm I've ever driven through. I was on my way back to Toronto, and I was coming through Manitoba. It was getting dark, and I still wasn't even at like Winnipeg yet. I have so much ranting and raving about like what kind of country this is and how much my opinions have changed after doing the drive, but I'll save that for later. And as I was coming,
do you mean in the sense of like it's like you have to separate, like the land itself is beautiful, right? Like the very earth and land itself, it's gorgeous. Like this whole North American continent is amazing. But then it's like it's the society that was built on it. You know what I mean? Like that. It's just that's the part that's the disconnect. The society is ugly.
I have hot fucking takes about that actually.
Yeah.
Hot fucking takes that I'm going to talk about in this episode. But so back to the storm really quick. I was driving into it, and like the sky was just like a wall of gray because it was a big, big, big rainstorm, and it was going on for like miles and miles. It wasn't just like a concentrated cloud. It was like a big storm wall. So it was rising up in the sky. You know what I mean? Because it's prairie. There's no like mountains for it to kind of roll over, you know? Like you can see a storm coming from a ways away. And if it's a big storm, it'll look like you're driving into a wall of it, you know? So that was coming, and the sun was setting. So it was starting to get dark. So it was turning gray out. And like the weirdest thing happened, like the ground was getting misty. Like there was just a huge amount of mist coming up off the ground, almost like it was anticipating the storm. And I was like in this portal, it felt like, because I was like driving into this huge wall of gray, and like all the land was reacting to it. And it felt like at any moment, the whole land could disappear. and it almost tried to a couple times, but didn't fully do it. You know what I mean? And I just kept driving, and it it only was bad at that point when I was like passing semis, because you kind of got to pass them. They go a little slower and they throw a lot of water at you.
Yeah, they do.
So you gotta pass them, and it's dangerous, and that's why a lot of people. And it was like nighttime storm driving, so like I was being safe about it. But you know how it be.
Yeah, we've been in
Anyways.
some dicey rainstorms because like even just like when Rue lived in Delaware and I was still up in Philly, it's like an hour drive, you know. Dude, hit some nasty summertime thunderstorms. And like the highway, it's just like because it just dumps down, and so the highway instantly gets flooded because it's just too much for it to take on at once. So yeah, definitely have been spooky storms. But I know what
Also,
you mean
like,
by like when a storm has a certain vibe to it, like a magical sort of like otherness to it. Um me and Scott actually had like a little similar sort of when we were doing the little house blessing kind of thing. We were together for Llamas. Yeah, I had a Mjolnir in my hand, and there was lightning flashing in the sky. So it was very,
Jesus,
yeah,
on
very
brand.
on brand, very very on brand. I felt like
Mm-hmm.
mini Thor.
It was really interesting because I kept smiling
Yeah,
every time like Jay would like focus on something or do something with the hammer. It would just be like a flash of lightning off in the distance. And
yeah.
the best part is at one point like you
No
raised
thunder
it
though.
and it was like no, there wasn't a thunder. It was
Mm-hmm.
all just lightning. It was funny. Like you, but you raised it the one time and it was like right, sort of like right in the way of the streak, and I was like, that was too cool.
I know. I was like, that's some witchcraft. That's some magic. That's. I was like, this
Look
is
at
why we're
you,
doing it,
Stormcaller.
right?
Mm-mm-mm.
I need to be the opposite of that for the 31st though of this month. Please, everyone, put your energy surrounding West Philadelphia, Clark Park, to be
Invoke the
specific.
sun. Honestly,
No rain.
real talk. Real talk. I've been doing a lot of weather magic for a long time. If you want sunny skies like that, invoke the sun specifically. Don't try to invoke no rain. Just like cast for the sun. And
Mm,
like hot tip for weather magic. The best way I find to focus on it is to close your eyes and imagine what it feels like being in the weather that you're calling for, right? So if you really want a storm, like close your eyes and imagine like the scent of petrichor and like
I
the
love that
rumbling
word.
of thunderclouds, yeah,
I love
and
that
like
word.
the storm coming in and like the first runner drops that come and hit your skin, letting you know that the storm is coming before it just starts going everywhere, and like how that would feel being out in it and the temperature of the drops, you know. The great way to call a storm. Same thing with like the sunshine. Imagine how hot you want it to be, how it would warm your head, your body, your clothes, how much you might sweat, what what sunglasses you might have to wear, you know, what that would look like on the environment you're going to be in, you know, and just like really focus on that and then do a directed letting out of it and like letting it just go out into the atmosphere. I find that really, really works.
Yeah, because it's like a whole like you're testing, but because it's kind of a buzzword right now. But it is in a
You're
way like
calling for it.
putting yourself in that kind of
We're gonna
headspace.
call, you know what,
All I
we're
can
gonna
think of
come up
is
with cool witchcraft terms that are edgy. You're calling it.
right. You're
Your
calling it.
storm calling, your sun
Yes.
calling, you know.
Just start using
We're gonna
like
call it like
D&D
shit like
terms.
conjuring and calling.
Yeah.
Yeah, conjuring and calling and
Like
shit like that. We're gonna
yeah.
sound cool now.
Damn right.
Make magic cool again.
I feel like I still like calling to yourself. I still say phrases like that. Like when people are like casting spells for something, I'll be like, "Oh, well, you're calling to yourself like prosperity." You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
I still kind of just instinctually do that because I realized that that was the verbiage that we had when I was coming into all this. Like it was
Mm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to conjure money for yourself, to call money to yourself. Like
To
that was what
attract.
those were the words. Right. Like those were the words that we had. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to see how like the what is that? The lexicon, is that the word? the slang, whatever, of our community just changed.
Fuck.
God,
What is the word?
watch them start calling it conjure culture.
Like colloquialisms of
Yeah,
the occult, I guess.
that's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, Ashka is here in the chat.
Hello.
And I know you're on like a way different time zone than us, so I'm super happy that you were actually able to join in. That the time space continuum has
Sorry
allowed
about the
that.
technical difficulties. Sorry about the whole
yeah, that wasn't fun.
Mercury retrograde.
It's been hitting hard.
Yeah,
sorry for Mercury.
Back to what I wanted to talk about a little bit. Like the drive was so good, but it was also like therapeutic, and I didn't realize how much like both the drive and seeing my friend that I hadn't seen for 7 years would really be the highlights of my trip. Like, don't get me wrong, it was great to see my nephews and my family. I love them like to death and forever, and I would do pretty much anything for them. But at the same time, it's really overwhelming sometimes to be around like 4 grandkids plus, because there's like that's just like, or not grandkids, sorry, nephews, because they're not my grandkids, that's what my mom would call them. To be around 4 nephews plus like all of my step siblings' children, and like just 2 of my step siblings, like a partners.
Yeah.
Just like, sorry, not step siblings, but one of my step sibling and his partner alone brought like 4 kids with them, I want to say.
Wow.
And then like my siblings both have 2. So imagine like an 8 plus kids running around screaming. It like really becomes autistic overload, you know? And I don't really like engage socially with that side of the family. Like they just don't really talk to me about anything unless it's like work, you know what I mean? Like they don't really know how to inquire about somebody as a person or have like a deeper conversation.
Because they don't want to.
I found myself really I don't even know if that's it. I really
or they're just
don't
not capable.
I don't like to pigeonhole them, but it could be anything.
My family's a lot like that. Like they're very like,
they could be uncomfortable with me being a queer trans woman for all I know, right? Yeah. I'm not in their heads. I don't pretend to be. But anyways, I struggled to communicate with people while I was there, and I found myself regressing and smoking more weed like I used to, and just like sitting there on my phone, or just like I used to as a kid playing video games when I was in a group of them, because like I couldn't really talk with a lot of them that much. Like, and don't get me wrong, like I was telling Scott, my relationship with my mother, my brother, and my sister is all great, right? And like my dad and I don't have the worst relationship, but Jesus Christ, we barely talk, right? And like it can be difficult, and being around your family can really make you regress in a way that you're not ready for. Like I was saying to Scott, in a small town, if you come back to it, people often will treat you like you still ain't shit. They haven't seen what you've done outside of the town.
And
they only see or really accept what's in the town. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, like, well, you're not here, so man.
Yeah. If you don't really display it clearly,
Philly
like with like
is a little
fancy
bit like
car or some shit, they don't care and they don't even really believe you, you know? So like
Philly could be a little bit like that, even though it's a big ass city. Like sometimes we have this like small town energy, sometimes like depending. But yeah, sometimes it's like, oh, what, you left Philly and you think you're hot shit now? You ain't shit.
And I got a lot of comments from how I dressed, and like, don't get me wrong, some of it was really positive. If it was like from a woman, it was always positive, right? Any of the ladies from like ages like early 20s to like even late 60s were complimenting my outfits because they loved what I was wearing, right?
Yeah, because you're probably one of the most vibrant people in the town.
Oh yeah. But the guys were shooting me daggers, especially the old men. Wherever I went, there's always an old white guy ready to eye me down and go, "Girl, you shouldn't be here."
They're everywhere.
Sort of thing. It's like, man, fucking get fucked.
Literally.
I have a knife on my belt. I will fight you. And you regress a lot when you're in your hometown, right?
Yeah.
And it's because your hometown will refuse to let you, unless you like grew up in a big city. Your hometown will like refuse to see you as the person that you've come to be, and some of your family might even do that too,
Yeah.
right? And so
You
then
get pigeonholed
you
back
end
in.
up going back a little bit, and like
Mhm.
it's a terrible feeling, and I like really felt myself like losing control of all the progress I had made
Like
temporarily, and like
autonomy.
not autonomy, no, but like just emotional. Like out here, if somebody were to treat me the way that people treat me there, I'd have a lot more conversations with them about it. Like
Mm.
especially with like certain people I'm not going to name. But there, it always feels like, it's just temporary. You're just there to see the people. You got to keep the peace because it's like your family and shit. And it's
Right.
like actually really difficult, and you regress into your old coping mechanisms for being in those situations, because as much as you can change yourself and change your environment so that you don't have to deal with those situations, when you come back to them, your coping mechanisms will likely still be the same, and you'll fall back into that if you don't have explicit like therapy and preparations in place for that, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a fucking challenge.
It's a
So
huge reason
uh
why I won't really go visit my parents in Florida. It's really why I
mhm.
won't, and it's because like when I'm around them, I'm just like I have to. I can. I have found a little bit of a balance where I can say my opinions, I can say my thoughts. I look the way I look. I am who I am. Um,
Mhm.
it is what it is. But at the same time, it's like I can't fully be myself. I can't fully and it's not fun there either. It's just like what, sit around and stare at mom and dad while they fucking yell at each other. I'm like, oh look, my childhood all over again. So it's like, you
Yeah.
know. So it's like, why? So
I
like, I tell them, I'm like, oh, I don't like Florida because fuck Florida, But like,
Mhm.
I'll be like, oh, it's really
you
hot
go
down there. I hate it, this and that. When really the real reason is I don't want to be around you. Period.
you go years without hearing people talk to each other like that. And you go back to your family and you're like,
Yeah.
this is why I was the way I was for so long.
Yep. And you're like, and this is why I had to bounce, I had to separate, I had to, I had to do what I did because y'all
Yeah.
motherfuckers
Yeah.
cannot get it together. We are not on the same
Again,
wavelength.
to be clear, I have great relationships with some of my family members, just
Mhm.
not all of my family
Right, and you're
members.
not going to, especially if you like I have a really tiny family. Like I'm civil with everybody and everyone is like, "Oh my god, Jay, blah." Um but I really don't want to deal with a lot of them.
And like that's the thing. I hear something that we don't talk about enough in queer circles, and I'm just gonna
Mm.
say it. We always talk about like, does your family accept you or not? Like it's some kind of binary. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's a
Oh
And
spectrum.
like
yeah.
that's such a fucking loaded question,
Yeah.
right? Because like my certain people in my family say they accept me, but then will be socially distant with me in a way that they weren't to me in
Yeah.
like prior to transition.
Yeah.
And certain people, especially like my dad, are really good at making efforts to try. I will always, always, always give him credit. He tries, and I
Mhm.
love him for that. And I can't fault him in the end, right? But then there's other people who like you can tell they don't,
Yeah.
and they won't. And I'm not going to say that's okay in terms of like they're allowed to do that. It's okay in the sense that like it's not our job to mitigate that, right?
Right.
It's just fucking not. And like
You
it's your
sounded
family.
mm.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say Scott sounded kind of excited when you had brought up this topic, so I didn't know if Scott had anything in particular that
Oh
they
I
wanted
no,
do
to.
I
I'm
do want to see if you do have something to add. But like it's not your job to mitigate how your family reacts to you. It's just your
That
job to be yourself, right?
exactly 100.
And not everybody is going to just outright say, yeah, I accept you. And there are going to be some people who actually, this is one of the hardest things to accept too. There are going to be some people who outright wish that they could tell you that they don't accept you and that they hate you and they
Yeah.
think that you're what's wrong with society, but they
Yeah.
will never say it to your face, and they will only
It's
ever say it behind your back.
so
And there's
fun to
this
watch them
weird kind of
squirm.
like civil pleasantry And like you'll see it with like accidental misgendering. Like there's it's one thing if like you get accidentally misgendered after them not having seen you for years and years and years and years, and the person immediately feels bad and like it's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, fuck, or like whatever, however they react, right? But it's another one like you can see how they react to their own misgendering of you, you know? You can tell when it's like, oh, sorry, like, you know what I mean? Or like there's different ways people do it. And you can kind of read the energy, right? But there's people who are going to say they accept you and don't accept you. There's going to be people who say they don't really accept you, but actually still will really have your back with shit, which is weird. It's not a fucking binary. And I do wish we could decouple the idea of like people accepting you for being queer is just like this binary thing, when again, like a lot of things, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, it's a fucking spectrum, right?
Not everything is yes or no.
Everything's a spectrum.
Everything is, yeah.
I miss the spectrum.
Yep. Yeah, nothing really exists as black and white, I don't think. You know, I mean, I've had people. It's funny because one of the things that you guys are reminding me of are a few. Twice now, I've had people say to me like, "You really cut off all ties with your father?" And I'm like, "Yep." I was like, "We said goodbye to each other, and that was it. That was done." I was like, "It was like a, you know, it was a mutual understanding." But it's funny because even for some people, that experience is like, you know, wild. You know, as much as they maybe I've heard they want to, or they just couldn't do it, or and all that's valid. Like, you know, it's like it's not as if like it's like the, you know, it's not a joyous experience.
No.
You know what I mean? It's and that's me coming from, you know, somebody who was you know, domestically abused by my father, and you know, and it's still not like a joyous experience. Like it's still my father. You know what I mean? Like that still exists. I still think about, you know, I think a lot about his mortality because he's very sickly and he's not getting any younger. I think a lot about sort of the gory details of it, you know, given he lives alone and, you know, like I know that someone's going to probably, knowing him, someone's going to find him. Like it's just this is like a whole big, I have to kind of be ready for all of this, like coupled with the fact that like we have these really, this really difficult relationship where, you know, me and I've said this on the podcast multiple times, but like where we trigger each other. The thing is, it's like similarly to like, you know, I have family members names I won't give, who have this really uneasy sort of like, we accept that you're queer, and it's sort of like it's as far as it goes. You know what I mean? And you can kind of tell that it's like you know, and for some of them it's still at that like, oh, so cute, you know, like my relationship's cute, where everyone else gets the, oh, kids, you're doing this, and it's just like, you know, it's like, yep, mine is like a high school relationship
like,
that
I've been in
I
guess.
for, you know, which is,
my
you know,
classic
and
line. Fuck me.
Right. And it is what it is, you know, and then it's always the usual suspects. It's those people that really enjoy that, you know, that cisgendered, heteronormative, nuclear family type stuff.
Right.
You know, they tend to have more wealth than some of us, and you know, it tends to be those ones that are kind of like this weird sort of like, you know. And then I've also had like I've had that whole you're gay, but you're not like other gay people where you're shoving it down my throat. And I was like, no gay person is doing that. None of us are. So like, I'm not different. I'm the same as every other gay person.
I just think of that Brandon Rogers video. The Brandon Rogers video of him in the office. Move, I'm gay. Trying to get to the copier. Right. Move, I'm gay.
I mean, I do feel that way.
So like, during Pride Month only, right?
Right.
Move, I'm gay.
Or when I'm walking behind straight people in the city. But like, that's just because they walk really slow.
Like walk 3 wide.
Gotta go fast though.
Yeah, gotta go fast. Always busy.
But no, I totally get it. There is like a sort of a range of things, you know, like yeah, it exists on a spectrum, like the level of acceptance that you get, you know.
Yeah,
And it can be cultural, like it depends on where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it depends on all sorts of things. Like here in the city, like
if
here
you've
in
been
Philly,
colonized, for example.
yeah, all sorts of things affect it, right? All sorts of intersectional stuff, right? Like, it can, 9 times out of 10 here. I know I don't hold my partner's hand in public in the city because Darian had one experience with being harassed for being openly queer, and that was pretty much it for him. He just could not he couldn't do it again. He had one experience and he was like, that's it, never want that again.
Yeah.
And I've had it more than once. Yeah, it hurts me, but I'm not upset at Darian, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like it isn't
just upset at the fact.
Right. Because like for me is that I've already been there, I've done that, you know what I mean? More than twice, more than 3 times. I don't really care anymore, and it's not to say that I don't care about my own safety. It's just to say that I just don't care. Like it's never going to end,
Right.
so like at what point do I stop? Like at what point do I do I just always care, or do I stop caring about it? You know what I mean? Like, do I stop worrying?
The care that I would do is start carrying a gun.
Well, I do want to. I mean, yeah.
I don't think that's an actual solution. I'm just saying that's
no.
a funny
I mean,
that's
firearms is a good. I mean, I
it
think
can be if
learn
you're
firearms. I do. I think
know what you're doing.
How to use a firearm. I'm so sorry, Sophia. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say if you're practiced and trained with them, yeah, firearms are actually an excellent option, especially if you live in a country where concealed carry is legal. Fucking, I would do that shit up personally.
Also, too, if you
Amy
can't have a
Blackthorn
firearm,
talks about firearms all the time. She is a huge supporter of that. So is Chris Orpello. He's been getting in. Amy Blackthorn. She's totally,
like seriously. If I lived in America, I would carry a 45 ACP hand cannon. Or not hand cannon, handgun. What am I fucking saying?
Handgun. I was like, well, that's not legal.
Or probably something more modern, like a Norinco.
I carry a Nerf gun.
Well, there's also a non-lethal weapon called a Berna that you can have.
We did look into that.
Yes,
we looked into that.
Berna,
at the gun show.
It's pretty much guaranteed to incapacitate for an assailant for up to at least 30 minutes, and there's you don't have to bear the burden of murder, and or killing someone, whatever words, which is good for a lot of people who might hesitate with a firearm, which is a totally valid experience, by the way. No one knows how they're going to react in situations like this until they're in them. It's that, it's kind of why we've actually said before on the podcast, I don't remember when, we actually talked about like what people are capable of and how anyone's capable of anything. Because you don't really know who you are until you're in a situation that's going to make you that person, for good or for bad, right?
Yeah, I can actually go back to the specifics about what we were talking about on that. Just really quickly. You're basically like what I was saying in that episode was you're basically like two people. The person you are in your day-to-day life, right? And then the person you are when your life is on the line. And unless you've been in those situations, you have no clue who you are when you're like that, right? Because I had someone once tried to say, you never know who you are until you're about to die. I'm like, fuck that. You're two separate people. Because if you don't die, you have to go back to being something else. You don't just live in that state of like, oh, I'm always almost gonna die. Anyways, please continue.
But no, I also I'm also I'm really big on personally on I really wish that there would be more free or affordable self-defense classes for queer people taught by queer people. I feel as if most often queer bashings tend to be unarmed.
Yeah.
Or they tend to become very street fight. So someone might pick up a bottle, someone will pick up, something they find.
It's usually at a bar, a restaurant.
Right. So
Yeah.
it tends to be fisticuffs, or some type of, just whatever bar type situation. And I really think that a form of self-defense Western boxing, something that's useful in a street fight, learning actually how to strike and counter strike, how to
Not break
protect,
your hand.
right, how to
Martial
protect your
arts can be
idol.
great for that too.
Yeah, there are quite a few martial arts that are really good for that.
Just anything that can help you in a fight. Anything. There are
I just wish
many,
it was
many
more
skills.
accessible. But I've also heard a lot of arguments from queer people, and I totally find this valid. There are many queer people who just do not see themselves doing those things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They
Like
don't.
being in a fight.
Yeah, they don't. And the
Me.
thing is, like, I can't say there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
And although it makes me uncomfortable because I can't see myself not fighting back, but I can understand why for other queer people that's not something they're interested in doing. And they have a right to feel that way, I think, right? I mean, I don't want to tell people, and it's not that they don't want to, it's not that they don't want it to happen to them, but they just in themselves know that they won't, they won't want to. You know what I mean? There's something inherently in them that's very, I don't want to say pacifistic, but I don't know, just very not, they don't have that fighting spirit. You know what I mean? Whatever
Yeah.
that is.
It's not quite me. Like, I feel like, for me, like, I really, truly, I've never been in a fight. I don't want to. I don't care to. It's not how I want to exert my energy, right? And yet, I feel like if someone were, someone's throwing the first hit, in this case, I'm never going to throw the first hit. But so suppose I get in a fight, someone's trying to fight me. Like, I really think I'd black out in the sense of, like, I'd probably kill them. Like, I don't know if I, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I would go straight to murder because I just am so done with society.
I know what I do. Sorry, go ahead.
That's totally valid. Like, I think about that a lot. I think
Yeah.
about, it's funny because I have to think about my anger, and my rage, I should call it, a lot in therapy. We focus a lot on, like, I have to, like, part of my therapy is learning to allow myself to sort of defend myself in situations, like, just to pick up for myself and not to just be a doormat. And the reason for that is because a lot of the time, I know for abuse victims, we tend to start to almost feel, because we know we have this really dark edge in there, right? Like this rage that exists that, like, wants to sometimes crawl its way out of your mouth.
I feel like that, like, there's like a demon, like there's like you're like, I just want to go outside and I want to scream and I just want all of the demonic
hit and
energy
break
to
and
just
punch and yeah.
You really had to put that imagery in my head just as I was about to take a hit. Like, you were like, something, I'm like,
sorry.
Quite all right.
Love
I was
you.
just like,
you have to kind of learn the acceptance. I feel like acceptance of that space, accepting the fact that you're worthy of, like, being, like, you're worthy of defending yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you have worth, and therefore you're allowed to protect your existence.
Your role is not to get shit on. Like, you don't have to constantly be shit on. You can fight back. Yeah.
Right. And you're not wrong for being angry.
Oh, sorry. What I'd like to contribute to this is, like, that's something I've struggled with for a while. Like, I didn't want to, especially with my magic, I didn't want to do any negative magic at people. But I also realized at the end of the day that, like, if you're a healer, that's great. And I am glad that you are. But who's gonna take care of you if somebody's coming at you or doing some really negative shit, right? Sometimes it's not enough to just turn the other cheek, especially if you get put with a lot of shitty people in your way. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to take care of yourself and you have to be your own warrior. Like, we don't live in communities anymore that take care of each other in those kind of traditional ways where, like, there would be somebody, because like to be a warrior means to like be sacrificing of yourself for your community, and that doesn't mean like go off and die in a battle, even though that's most often what comes to mind with a lot of like very war-centric societies. What it often means is like you're the one who goes out and hunts, because like hunting can be a little risky, you know, or like you're the one who goes out to investigate if like someone is causing a ruckus out in the woods, or like if someone's stuck in like a cabin and needs to get out because it's collapsed, you're going to help like clear it out. But even in less extreme circumstances, you're the person who's like physically fit and able to do that stuff. So you're the one who's like pulling weeds in the gardens for people and like helping move stuff, right? Like you serve your community. That's the sacrifice, right? Like it's a very short sacrifice to just go off to battle and die, but it is a long and deep sacrifice to be there for your people and to like do what they need for you, right? Or do what they need for them, right? And then in turn, like people would take care of you, right? That's in like an idealist anarchist society, but like we don't really have that kind of society in what we live in, you know, and everything is for profit. You have to have money to access the basic social services that like your group would afford you before. So like therapy, which is really just talking to people who care about you to work through difficult stuff that you've been through, who have the knowledge and wisdom to actually appropriately talk about the situations, right? I was watching an excellent video today on how like a lot of therapy in Western society can actually really suck, because a lot of it is trying to not acknowledge the systemic injustices that cause your issues. They really prefer to like pathologize you as a person rather than accept the fact that society that's this fucked up is going to make somebody feel a little bit shitty at times, if not terrible outright, you know.
I've been seeing on
and they pathologize you rather than accepting that the society fundamentally is fucked or could be something better, you know.
Yeah, like I don't know, there's a lot of like therapists and psychologists and those types that pop up on threads as like recommended people for me to follow, or I just see their posts and stuff. And a lot of them have been resounding. A lot of them are young too, but a lot of them have been kind of saying the same thing of like, listen, I'm a therapist. I talk to people all day long, help them with their problems, you know, this, that, and a third. But really, what it's really all fucking boiling down to at this point is capitalism is killing everyone. Like, really, the thing that would cure people's mental illness, quote unquote, massive air quotes, is money. They need money,
not just
and not
that, but
and not
like
just
having
like
a
give the people money, right? But like
is
have the
interwoven
resources
and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like if we're going to stick with capitalism, so if we're going to stick with this, right? People need more money in order to keep going, right? But we all know like the whole it's just designed to eat itself anyway, so it's like whatever. But like that's I was totally on the same wavelength as you, because really it's like, oh, you're this, you're depressed, you have anxiety. Okay, well, maybe I wouldn't be as depressed and anxious if I didn't have to worry about like, okay, I have $100 and now I have to buy food and meds and, you know, my bus pass.
Oh, and I also
all
have
of that
to pay
costs
somebody,
$200.
And I also have to pay somebody to talk to them about these problems,
Right.
so that they can tell me that the problem is me.
Yeah. The problem is you're depressed. Oh, okay. I'm going to try. Like, it's just brutal.
Not to shit on therapy, because like therapy can absolutely be excellent with the right therapist, but like society as it's fundamentally set up, you know, like all the avenues that actually have like funding and are like hierarchically put in place are not going to advocate for the overthrowing of the society that fucking like pays for and sustains those practices, right? Like truly revolutionary. Like this is a thing on the video that I was watching from this girl who's been going to therapy her whole life. She said, what do you think would happen if a truly revolutionary person like Che Guevara or Martin Luther King had to go through modern therapy? What do you think they would say to them? And I had a good chuckle about it, because it's like they would absolutely tell them that, you know, they what they are thinking about is not the right way to go about doing things, you know?
It's interesting. I mean, like, our society has changed so much. Like, every decade, I feel like everything is completely new and social norms are completely different. Basically, every
Scott,
10
you're
years.
awfully quiet, and I want to cap you on this because you actually go to therapy, and
Oh, sorry,
I
I
want
was
your
listening.
opinion.
No, it like there are a lot of problems in modern therapy in general. It's really not like an American thing, or it tends to just be old school therapy. Um, the culture of therapy itself changes, like down to like patient relationship dynamics. Like older therapists tend to be very more distant, not emotionally exactly, like they care, but they tend to keep like they tend to keep you at arm's length. For instance, whereas like younger therapists allow they'll accept gifts for in the holiday or something. They want to they'll like, oh, text me if you have like a moment where you're really happy. Like they want to hear from you and sort of engage with you, and that's not really and it's funny because like my therapist, who's older, she's very how do I put this? She's very attentive to she makes sure that she's paying attention to the new science. I think that this is something a pitfall of of STEM, where some people get very comfortable in what they know from their doctorate degree, and they don't keep reading, they don't keep going to conferences and doing things. And my therapist is not like that. She takes time off to like travel to go to important conferences, and she listens to all the modern research. And we have really intense discussions about and there's a lot of research around this, so it's really disheartening to hear that other therapists don't take it into account. But the fact is that we've studied the effects of essentially like poverty and poorness, and the effects of it on mental health of of communities of people who experience severe wealth inequality. And there is a distinct decline in overall emotional or life satisfaction and emotional well-being. There tends to be a lot more adverse coping skills like drug use, alcohol use, gambling addiction, that kind of stuff.
That sounds like a great night. What?
Terrible.
Call me out,
I'm
queen.
terrible.
But honestly, you're describing most of the people I know, or a lot of people I know.
I mean, and that's why, like, that like it's funny because like I had a conversation. I mean, to talk about queer people specifically. I was one time talking to my friend. He lives in New York, and we were talking about the chronic drug use in the queer community. And it's for a lot of us, it's seen as like it's just part of our culture, right? If you go out to like Voyeur, for instance, it's not uncommon to see them doing lines on the dance floor. It is just you're supposed to sort of accept it for what it is.
But also, like, humans have been doing this forever. Like, we've all, this makes me do that. This makes me my brain feel this way. We've been doing substances, drugs forever.
Right.
So it's like nothing's fundamentally changed. But yeah, there is sort of a
but
stigma
I think
sometimes.
the addiction, right? Yes. Like that's specifically what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I'm talking
like
about the addiction.
Yeah.
That's when we start to. That's when we're like coming to some that like. Yeah, that's when we get to that point. And the weird thing is like that conversation. I had a really interesting conversation. Might have been in class. I forget where I was, but I remember this person was like a master's degree in sociology sociology. And we were discussing the intersectionality of like addiction and money usage in the queer community, like how we spend money. And it was specifically looking at from what I remember, it was specifically looking at cis gay men. But what I remembered was really fascinating cis gay men who don't have a lot of money will live well beyond their means just for like they'll destroy their bank accounts just to go like for a weekend in Fire Island. Like they'll completely just like spend and spend and spend just to like try to keep up. Which is an interesting studied phenomenon.
That's interesting.
Right. So I mean, like, there's a lot wrong. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot that's. But the thing is, to get back to what all of you were saying, is that we really shouldn't be in a situation like this in the first place. If people, mental illness is one thing, right? Like we're not, but trauma, right, is though related, not necessarily like. If mentally ill people like me could just be mentally ill, but had the comfort of a quality life, which would involve money, I know money would make my situation a lot better. If I could have that, I would sort of be able to progress quicker. Does this make sense? Like, no one can progress. The progression is hindered, or at least impeded, by the constant onslaught of I need money. Yeah. Do I let go of my electric bill this month? Can I buy food this month?
Yeah.
How do paycheck to paycheck?
Part of the problem is like when you're in those situations, so much of your time is like eaten up by like being poor, because like Jesus Christ, being poor eats in your time, because you can't just DoorDash it. You have to go get your food. You're not going to probably drive there. You're going to walk or public transit. That takes longer. Like literally you're doing fucking everything. You may not even have your washing machine in your house. You might have to like pack up all your dirty clothes, take it to a laundromat, make a fucking evening about it. Like you have to so rigorously watch your time. And of course, because you're taking it to a laundromat, you're paying more to be poor. There's just like so many fucking layers how the system's just like
and then it's
rigged
like
against you.
Your bank account has like $100. Your checking account has $100 minimum. Oh, okay. So the laundromat, and now I've had to spend $20 at the laundromat. So now I only have $80 in my account, and now they're going to charge me a $7 low balance fee.
Right.
Yeah, banks can be truly evil.
They did that to
they
me.
can be truly fucking evil.
That's when I left PNC finally. I said no. You're not going to no.
They just did it to me, and we're I think my mom's thinking about
credit union.
What you call it, changing. Yeah.
Low balance fee is insane.
Criminal.
They're charging you for not having enough money.
Right, but if you don't have a bank account, then you can't get paid.
But hold up. How is it justified to take money from people who have less than $100? Just think about that.
It's called to give it to you so you can get it. It's called a maintenance fee.
Maintenance fee.
It's so that way they can maintain your account, like because you don't have a lot of money. Air quoting. Thank you, Jay. I was doing that too. It's called a maintenance fee
out the wazoo.
Because they're holding your little bit of money, so therefore.
Yeah. It's very real.
I don't even know if they can do that in Canada.
I hope not. I hope you have some kind of fucking law over there that prevents that, because it's evil. It is just evil.
I even have like overdraft protection with how my bank goes, because I finally just got a fucking credit card. So like if I overdraft with like my credit card fees in the year, like I have insurance for that, and it'll like protect me up to a certain amount. Like shit like that.
Yeah, we have that too.
But the low balance fee is probably the most insidious fee. Like when I got hit with that, because when me and Rue got together, we kind of like, I had a different bank and then they had a different bank. So eventually we all just switched over to Rue's bank because they had the better one. And so we do everything through there. But so I finally closed my PNC account because I was like, oh, maybe I'll just keep a separate account, maybe for whatever. Then I got hit with the low balance fee. And here's the thing. I had less than 500. My limit was 500 for that account that I had with them. So I had to have at least $500 in that account in order for it to not have the low balance fee. So it dipped below 500. yeah, I got slammed with the fee, and I said, nope, fuck this. So I went over to the bank, and
I've never even heard of that. I've never even heard of that in Canada.
Yeah, and I closed it out, and she was like, "Oh, what brings you here to close out your account today?" I'm like, "I don't want the poor people tax anymore, so I'm leaving." She's like, "Oh, you've been a customer for so long." And I'm like, "Yeah, and I'm broke, so give me my money."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
fuck this. Yeah, it's insidious.
Charging
I really
somebody
hope
for having less than $500 is like literally just legally stealing from the poor.
it is. It is absolutely 1,000,000% that, and it is allowed to happen, and it happens every fucking day to people. Like, people have gotten to the point, like, especially like with gas, right? Here's a strategy with gas if you don't already use this strategy, because you listen to this podcast, and I'm assuming you don't have a lot of money. Rue, would you like to share the gas strategy for people?
Please. Please. I was like, as soon as you said this, I knew you were gonna. I was like, oh, I know exactly what he's talking
So I saw you
about.
perk up. I was like,
Listen,
here you are.
yes. No, there's this time old strategy. I've been using this. I've been
Tried and
driving a vehicle since 2008 is when I got my driver's license. So long time ago, 16 years, long time ago. And the trick is, if you know that, if you have a credit card that you can put it on, obviously always put it on a credit card. But if you don't, you only have a debit card. And it is literally, this is only applicable if you know you're getting paid from your job or whatever. And within the next 24 to 48 hours, you go to the gas station. You're probably close to 8. You fill up your tank, use your debit card. They just put a $1 hold on it. And so you can fill your tank. And yes, they will charge the rest of the money, causing your account to go into default. But then hopefully your direct deposit hits, thus bringing you back into the green.
And that's how you fill your tank in a pinch. If you didn't already know that,
you only need $1 in your bank account. That's how you fill your tank for $1. It's going to cause you to go under, but
yeah. Yeah, because it's like, I think it's the way the gas pumps work, because it's like you're just filling. It's not like it's gonna stop if you
also have to make sure you have
money.
overdraft. You have to make sure you have overdraft protection turned off, because if it's turned on, then it won't let you do the transaction at all.
Oh,
that's a very important thing. I have my overdraft protection turned off, because if it's on, then they'll either just stop the transaction right out, or they'll take the money out of another account that I have with them. So I just turn the protection off, because I'm like, if I see it negative, I'm going to make it not negative.
Right, yeah. But yeah, so for anyone who
and
didn't
now
know
I
that
can do that
trick,
without waiting for paychecks.
Yeah, and that's, I feel really blessed, because I remember the super broke life of, well, I have $50. That's it, but now we're in like a little bit of a different position. I think we've decided we're firmly working class. Is that where we fit in the grand scheme?
Yes. Working class is what
you work for hourly or wage or salaried labor, and you do a work service. Unless you own and collect money through capital, you're part of the working class.
Yeah, I don't have any other. We do have some people in the chat. I did want to switch focus over there for a second. So Sage was here in the chat. Sure. I don't know if you're still here, Sage. So Sage is actually training in karate. That's cool. Because we were talking about self-defense stuff earlier. So 100%. And you know what, Sage? If you get good, or if you learn like some basic concepts, like find some other queer people, teach them karate too. Spread the knowledge.
I want to learn boxing.
And earlier, Ashka was saying,
yeah, I'm actually gonna look into doing kickboxing here soon.
Yeah, we actually have a boxing gym around the corner from us. And then what Ashka was saying here? Oh, you did Taekwondo, so we have a couple martial artists in here.
Yeah.
I did Taekwondo when I was younger, and I got my black belt in it.
Yeah, I did. Katie did Taekwondo. I did Kenpo karate. I was 10, 12 years old. I think I stopped somewhere around there. I did it for like 2 years. I think it was just cost too much money or something like that. My parents were like, fuck this karate thing.
Same.
Yeah. Don't you love that? That's Katie too.
I really liked it.
Katie too. They were like, too much money, uniforms.
That's what Scott was talking about, was absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything is just too expensive.
Yep.
I mean, but like, I'm so sorry to get back on this. I'm so sorry.
No.
You just triggered a tangent. It's just like witchcraft courses,
Yes.
like witchcraft classes and stuff. Like,
Oh, we
I'm not
talked
gonna
about this.
name, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna name any names. I'm not trying because like I like
No.
some of these people, like in general, but
Where do you get off?
there are some people who are like charging like $238 or like more, and like 500, like, and it's kind of like, okay.
Which reminds me, though, real quick, Scott, there is a vendor that we have at Pagan Pride this year. Going to give them a quick shout out because I love their shit. They're doing the Catholic Folk Magic 101 workshop. And they are vending with their shop is Apocrypha. They do. I thought it was the coolest thing on their sites, and it's something similar I wanted to try. They do zine style magic books. So they're like $5 printed on newsprint little books about like, you know, like one would be about like banishing, or one's about like, you know, like different subjects of magic. And they sell them for $5 on like
That's
on their
so
site. And I'm like,
cool.
that's the way to fucking do it. Like if you're gonna sell occult knowledge, you know, do it that way, an affordable way, not $200 and some way. But yeah, sorry.
Right,
Continue.
like, but that's what I mean. Like, they're like, I'm not like, occult stuff shouldn't be free, like, because it takes a lot of time. But
Right.
like in this community, like, I don't see why occult classes cost like a
Hundreds of dollars.
fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not acceptable. It's just not acceptable.
No, we need to price cap, like, I don't know, because it's like you're offering esoteric knowledge, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this is not...
It's
I
there for the
guess...
betterment of mankind.
Yeah.
Like, just saying.
Yeah. Brian's here in the chat. Hi, Brian.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Brian.
What's it called? No, it's one of those things where it's like, it's like those like boutique shops where like you have to like where you have to like make an appointment to go in, and like they won't let you in off the street if you're not wearing something that looks expensive, right? Like, it's kind of like,
we only sell sizes
like,
1, 3, and 5.
Right. It's kind of like, so what you're saying to me is that you only want specific kinds of people to have access to what you're selling.
Right.
And that's what it comes off as. And I'm not saying it's always that, right? Because that's kind of intellectually dishonest. But it definitely comes off that way every time, regardless of if it is that or not. And that feels really weird.
Yes. Now, this is a good opportunity for me to plug, which is not even like a sponsor, but plug the Gray School, because until September 1st, so the Gray School is a non-profit organization, Gray School of Wizardry, okay? It is a place where you can study magic without religion, okay? It is the study of magic, esoteric study. Without all the god stuff, right? You learn about gods, mythology, all kinds of things, but it's not any particular religious sort of way. So it's a great place. It is geared towards adults. I am a working adult. I have a full-time job, and I'm still taking classes, so I'm able to engage. It is only, they have a couple different payment options, but it is only $30 a month to subscribe. Now, for some people, that is a lot. For others, not, you know, is what it is. But it's only $30 a month, or they do have like this one-time lifetime payment option. It is kind of like steep, but it's like a one-time, you pay it and then you have access to everything that they ever do ever. And then they are running a deal right now. They're doing 20% off, so that $30 a month would only be like 24. I think that's $6 off. So $24 a month until September 1st. If you were thinking about it, whatever. But that is another place where, like, I would say that that's an affordable avenue for like esoteric education. Yeah, if you're interested, please check it out, because I really recommend it. And there's not a lot of like, the other thing with the witchcraft courses too is it's just like, this is Joe Schmo's course and Priestess Joe Schmo and Priest, you know, it's just like there's no. I guess what I like about the Gray School is they're trying to build like an institution of learning to have some sort of like backing, you know what I mean? Like an academic sort of basis foundation. So It's a cool place. I recommend you guys check it out.
Definitely.
Hell yeah.
What was I gonna say? I didn't want to change the topic, but I do have a cool thing going on right now that I think you guys would be really interested in.
Yes.
Ooh, tell me.
I like cool things.
So I am currently, it's so bizarre. I'm currently helping my personal trainer try to cleanse the gym because they're having really strange experiences.
The gym is haunted.
Essentially, yeah.
Well, it's closing.
And I know, which is interesting that it's starting like really bad right now.
Yeah, that's
Like people's
weird.
moods are starting like people who were docile before will come in and suddenly get like really hostile. There's like this
It's
weird
going away.
atmospheric, this sort of weird atmospheric oppression over the gym that's been building over time. But now apparently like it's just creating like all sorts of like weird moments of like misfortune and bad luck. And my trainer was like, it's one thing after another. He's like, I can't even close this gym out like without something else bad happening. I don't even know what the latest thing was, which is apparently almost pretty violent. And he got like
That's
really
okay.
scared. So him and a few of the other staff were like, Scott, walk us through how to do a simple cleansing. And I was like, okay. And so I'm like texting them. They're sitting there like, okay, this, and they're like making sure everything is done. And it was funny because he texts me, he hits me up and he's like, so it went well at first. And then he was like, and then I felt resistance. And as soon as he said I felt resistance, I was like, shit. I tend to know when you're trying to cleanse something and you feel resistance, it means there's most likely something intelligent there. Most
Yeah.
often, not always, but
Yeah.
most often. And I was like, okay. And I was because like they're not like they're not practitioners of anything. They're like
Yeah, they're
they're just
yeah,
lay people who
learning on the fly.
yeah. And it was funny because they were they finished it, but the closer to the front of the gym they got,
I'm
they
sorry,
said that there
I
was
have
like
to stop you for 1 second, Scott, because Brian
yeah.
just put in the chat Haunted Gym. I love it. Makes for a gay spooky movie. No lie though, we need to write this. We need to write this.
Done. Done.
Done.
Oh God.
Gonna be
Yeah.
rich.
You have no idea how gay my gym is too, or was rather, whatever was.
It's a liminal
The gym was
time for the gym.
super gay. But what you call it? Then they were like hearing like these knocking sounds coming from over where the cardio machinery was, and I like told him I was like, look, I was like sometimes machinery settles after you used it for a while, and he's like I know what you're talking about. He's like, but I've been here for years. I've closed up this place so many times. I've come here after it was closed to clean, and
You were
I've
having
never
like a
heard them make
whole
sounds.
like Dead Files, fucking Kindred Spirits, Adam Berry. Like you're living your best psychic life right now. You're like Chip Coffee. Look at you, Chip Coffee.
I know, it's so funny because I did all these readings last night before bed to see like what was going on to like get like because trying to read that place with a bunch of dude bros pumping iron is like
Yeah.
really hard. So like I was like I'll just read from home and see what I pick up on. And it was really interesting. Like I found this really decent spread that like really helped.
What did you read with? What did you use? What system?
That new Purgatorium deck seems to be really really useful for this.
You think there's a demon in the? There's a demon in the.
But no,
Terrible.
no. Believe it or not, what came up
Watching too much
was
Supernatural.
what came up was essentially what the cards were getting at because I also use like playing cardomancy too on top of it. What came up is like it's it's that phenomenon that we see a lot. It's really common when a lot of people have a lot of strong negative feelings about things, or they have just in general, they go somewhere to release those negative feelings.
Yep.
It doesn't go anywhere.
Someone comes along to eat.
And builds and builds and builds. Right. And then it just sort of starts to coagulate into something, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of like something eats it and then it takes on a new life of its own, right? It kind of it takes on the psychic stuff of all the people that dropped off their miasma, right? And now it's forming its own. It seems very young, but it's forming some sense of its own identity and its own. It's forming that sort of independent intelligence, though I don't think it's as independent as I've seen some of these thought forms, whatever you want to call them. I've seen some of them pretty intelligent. They've been left over time, and essentially the only thing left to do is just to treat them like any other spirit and banish them. But this one seems like if I went in there, I probably could take care of it. The problem is that I can't because the cameras are on. So I don't really know what to do at the moment, but I actually no, you guys had me thinking about it. I don't know why. The whole time I'm like, I have to text John the reading. But yeah, and it's just so weird because it's all happening during this like really weird this retrograde we're in.
Well, you could probably do something. I mean, you could probably do something sympathetically. You take a picture of the gym, take a picture of the outside of the gym, and then maybe try and.
It's so funny. I've never tried it before, but I am thinking about it. I am like trying.
I would love to help you with this. Like, if you need just some extra, some
long
juice.
distance. I would love some help actually, because
kill that fucking rogue thought form.
We're gonna go Ghostbuster Gym, guys.
Well, it's actually funny. I actually already told John. I was like, because John wants my trainer. Yeah. He wants to buy the gym off of the company. So I
because
told
the
him
whole chain's going under. That's what I heard. The whole
they're filed bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And I told John, I was like, look, if you buy this place, because he was worried. He's like, if I buy it, is it still gonna be here, right? I'm like, yeah, probably.
You already
I said,
have
but
people.
I was like, if you buy it, I was like, I can 100% guarantee you, I can have a coven of witches in this place, like 2 weeks before opening, and you will not have a problem anymore.
No, you'll be fine. No haunted gym.
And he's like, wait, really? I was like, yes, I can have a coven of witches in here. I told him, I was like,
my people call your people.
Mount Vernon Cemetery.
Oh yeah, Mount Vernon. Yeah.
Like, just look up Mount Vernon Cemetery and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So I'm like coping with a haunted gym.
A haunted gym.
I know. I don't know where. I mean, when I tell you this is the weird shit that happens to me,
and that's how you know it's not made up, right? Like, it's not made up because it's not like if you were like, I walked by this abandoned lot and it was haunted, and I'm like, duh, like a doy.
This is a gym.
You're like, I was at the gym and it's fucking haunted. I'm like, what the fuck?
It's funny because, like, I mean, my gym always had like a vibe at night, but like most places have a vibe at night. You know what I mean? If you're in any place, it has a vibe at night.
It's funny this is happening at your gym because me and Rue were just talking about starting up at our local gym and getting back on the fitness life again. Yeah, I want to get stronger. I want to be able to. I was lifting them pig pride fucking bins, man. I'm like, out of shape.
Yeah. See, that's exactly what I want too. I love the strength of it all. I like not feeling weak all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like.
Brian was saying in the chat, add a bit of holy water or Florida water into the sprays that they spray the equipment down with, like the disinfectant spray.
That's what I told them to do. That's what they did.
Nice. Wonderful. Well, we've established. So yeah, maybe
synchronicities.
This is an advanced, more intermediate, perhaps level issue than if that did not take care of the issue.
I mean, I think that I think it's simply I
You
think
got to
there's a
give it
lot
the
going
juice
on.
that it's putting out. You got to be like,
I
kind of
do.
thing.
I think that it needs to be matched a little bit, but I also think that I asked, like, when I did the reading last night, it talked about like what would satisfy the spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it
Like,
was
what's it want?
interesting because it hold on one second.
The elliptical machine. Brian was like, the elliptical machine just kept going forever. I love this. It's like, I just imagine like
so it's
Casper,
interesting because
like how they were all like out of shape, like all the ghosts that lived in the Casper house in the movie. But then like they're at the gym, so now they're all like buff now. Casper the buff ghost.
so it's
Casper come to annihilate you.
Right.
the end of the reading. It's the two cards that came up were hiding and impotence.
Oh.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
These. Okay.
Yeah, like it's like if I give you this whole reading, right? Like, so the card that represented the spirit itself was familiars. So I thought that was interesting. But
Okay.
that actually gave it away for me because
Yeah.
a lot of not all familiars are spirits that you build like that are already sort of pre-existing. Some
Yeah.
familiars are created. And that was kind of what gave it away about the nature of the spirit itself. And then we had the two cards that were in a reading that I did previous a couple weeks ago for John, like John's relationship to the gym, but it loss of purity, victory, and hoarding. But it was funny because we were discussing. It's funny that it came up like that because we were discussing a sort of a sense of taking away. Like it would be very like mice in the Le Normand, right? Like
Right.
this
Yeah.
sort of like sense of like taking away, kind of getting over on someone. I'm taking this from you. I'm winning, and I want to keep it all for myself, right? And then you have like the sense of hiding and impotence at the end, which is supposedly what would make the spirit happy, which would satiate the spirit. Which the hiding part's interesting because any feelings I would have previous there always felt like something was like out of sight. Like you would move your head and it would be like whatever.
This I don't know if I'm interpreting this correctly. Is the spirit excited that the gym is closing? It's like, yeah, get the fuck out of here.
It almost kind of seems like it wants. Yeah, that's honestly what it. Yeah,
which is gonna make it difficult. So that's why he's having such a problem because he wants to buy the place. And the spirit's like, no, I don't want nothing the fuck here. But guess what, honey? This is capitalism. Something will take its place inside that gym. Right. You know?
And, you know, if anyone deserves that place, John is one of the nicest human beings I've ever met.
Right.
So, like, he definitely deserves it. And it would be a decent place for people to come to feel accepted, to not have to worry, you know, about, you know, it would be a really inclusive gym. And yeah, so I want to help him get rid of whatever this is. It's just so bizarre.
It is weird.
It's so bizarre. Weird. It's really bizarre.
Maybe there's someone there that's been going there for years, right? And they've built this relationship with the gym and they actually hate working out, right? They go there every day and they're like, I actually hate this and I never want to do this. And so all that resentment has built up.
I mean, I want like a part of I did ask if someone sent it there. Like, but I wonder if, and this is how I'm thinking of it, if my reading is correct and this thing was sort of a thought form that was built up over years now and different many people sort of pouring their stuff out in there, I'm wondering if it's the isolation, right? Like that sort of like I want to be left alone in the dark, where no one's going to bother me, no one's coming in to, you know, make me do something I don't want to do. No one's going to turn on the lights.
Like a safe space.
And I think for a lot of people, I think that, you know, they do weight loss for the wrong reasons. They go to the gym for the wrong reasons. They, you know, do you know how it's particularly cis straight men? A lot of them, I've heard them say it, you know, like, oh, the gym is my therapy, or, you know, then of course you have like fucking 17-year-olds, on gear, you know, and like they, you know, got ridiculously jacked in 2 months, and you're like, oh, miracle, and it's like, they expect you not to realize that they no longer, like when they were kind of scrawny, but then suddenly they can't put their arms down anymore in 2 months. It's kind of like,
Okay.
I wonder how that happened. It's like I can imagine all that stuff, So I think that's what's happening.
That makes sense.
I really do.
I don't know. I think for me and Rue though, I think of this next try at like going to the gym, I think it's gonna work because I think we're going for the right reasons now. One, it's like I was saying, like our work schedules are synced up like perfectly. So like we have the same exact schedule. And I'm like, and we have jobs that make us sit for 8 hours. The last thing that I want to do after 8 hours of sitting is sit. So I want to move my body. But like jogging is not real, like how it is out here in Philly. It's not like the best. So I'm like, let's go to, and I was saying to Rue, I was like, how I always got through cardio was you put an episode of anime. They're 22 minutes long. Do 22 minutes of cardio. It's beautiful. At least you're moving your body.
Yep.
And I want to lift some
It's
stuff.
also nice to go into the gym with somebody because it's harder to motivate yourself alone.
Way harder. Unless you are a super solo flyer, there are some people that are like, I thrive alone. And I'm like, bless.
There are definitely days where I wish I had a gym buddy because like it's just kind of like I need someone here to be like focused.
So far.
I know, it's okay. Yeah. Like if someone just was there to like be like, you have to focus, you know what I mean? Like, but then there are days where it's like I like the fact that like I could just get in and do what I got to do and then leave.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these people, they stand there and they're so like I talk to my gym friends, but like I make sure it's like nowhere past like 10-minute conversation and
it's
and
like work.
Even then.
Like work conversation. It's like work conversations.
Right.
You're like, oh yeah, that was a nice 10-minute break. Now I'm back to my job.
Right. Exactly. And then I go right back to it and I get it done. At the end of the workout, I give them the fist bump. Hey, good seeing you. Good job, and out the door. Right. But yeah. So
the two genders, the fist bump and the.
Oh, I know.
The fist bump and the high five. The two genders.
Throwing it up.
Terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did want to like because I know.
Oh, Brian was also saying, what if making a shrine to direct the thought form? That is also an interesting tactic. I like that idea.
It's funny that you say that, Brian, because
y'all seem to be very similar in the way
I know, like I'm actually kind of creeped out because like we're kind of like on the same wavelength here. Yeah. It needs to be pacified in a way. It needs to be acknowledged. At first, I really did think it was something in the land because there is like a vibe. I've talked about this before. There was a vibe out front of my gym, like in that lot. And that lot had a lot of personality. It was it was a big cruising spot for years. So it has, that spot has a lot of personality to it. And I wasn't surprised to find something in the land itself, but this doesn't feel like that. They feel like very different things. You know what I mean? This isn't like a genus loci situation that's like I want the building torn down. It's not like that. It doesn't feel like that at all. But no, I agree. Something to sort of get it to be pacified, to be less wrathful.
Yeah. But we have been going on for a bit. We did get started late. But we have been talking for an hour and 20 minutes, 18 minutes, so. I know that I have to pee, so gonna announce that to now. But yeah, we've been going on for over an hour. It's usually I don't want to take up any more of anyone's ear space with our voices. And usually because most people drop off, I notice in listening, I think it's like 40 minutes. We get 40 minutes of people's attention before they're like, nope, next episode.
It's because that's an hour-long show.
Right.
An hour-long show is 42 minutes.
I have noticed, look, I've even noticed with myself, I literally had to watch 5 what was Spirited Away. I finally watched Spirited Away. I never saw that movie. I had to watch it for a grade school assignment, and I had to write a thing about it. But I watched it, and I was like, this movie's 2 hours? I'm like, man, like I had to stop halfway through and finish it another day because I couldn't pay attention. So that's how trained I am. So
Wow, really?
yeah, it was bad.
I love that movie so much.
I was like, I think like if there's any, I think I have ADD, whatever, ADHD. I should probably be medicated. Is what I'm probably saying. But whatever. We do have a Ko-fi. If you did want to subscribe to any of our tiers, one of the coolest tiers is the Hail Satan tier, which is $6.66 a month. You can subscribe to that and hail just about anything you like, shop, business, Satan himself, whatever you want to do. We do have one subscriber to that tier. That is Tink, and Tink always wants us to remember Free Palestine. Please keep the people of Palestine.
Free Palestine.
In your thoughts.
Free Palestine.
And
genocide
Free
in Palestine and Congo and Haiti,
Yeah.
and war
And
war stupid. We're beyond that now.
Yeah.
Very
Agreed. Good. But with that, we will log off, and we will not see you next. We might see you next Sunday. Hold on. I have to
It's always my year, you know.
So it is the weekend before Pagan Pride.
Darian saying hi, everybody.
Hi, Darian.
I'm a baby.
Yeah, it's the weekend before Pagan Pride. We might see you next Sunday, but if not, just know it's just because we're super busy trying to get ready for the event. But yeah, so we will see you sometime, probably the second weekend of September.
That's why you just say, see you in the next one, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.